Hey, what's up everyone? As you might have seen from my channel, I recently made a video on how Atlus should take example from Square Enix on the way that they chose to support the Nintendo Switch. Today the video will be different as I wanted to focus on Square Enix and on their recent support for the games that they released on the Switch and also for their future support for the console. At the end, I'll also give my predictions on what I think they will release on the console, so you'll want to stick until the end. So let's get right into it. Let's start by getting a quick look at the support that the Switch received from Square Enix as a developer in the past 3 years since the release of the console. As a launch title, we received I Am Setsuna, an RPG that was pretty good. And then we also got Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, which is a hack and slash Muso type of game, which was also pretty good. And we've got the announcement for Dragon Quest XI-S, which was actually the first game that was announced for the Nintendo NX back in the day. So that was a very slow year from the titles that we got from Square Enix. Not that much support yet, but obviously they're supporting a new console without an install base, and after the success in brackets of the Wii U, it's normal for the developers, third-party developers, to make sure that the Switch will be a great platform before they support it all in. Which, even with Dragon Quest XI-S as an announcement, I think that was already pretty good for Square. Now for the next year, so in 2018, Square realized that the Switch already had a pretty good install base with all the big titles that were released in the previous year, such as Mario Odyssey, such as Breath of the Wild. There was a lot of people that was starting to buy Switches, especially in Japan, so they realized that there's a market for their games on the console. They brought new titles such as Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2, World of Final Fantasy Maxima, Lost Sphere, which is a spiritual successor to I Am Setsuna that came out the year before. We've got The World Ends With You Final Remix, which was a port of the original DS game. We've got the fantastic Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, kidding by the way. And we've got Romancing Saga 2. And I don't want to forget the best of them all, in my opinion, Octopath Traveler, which was a new IP by the studio behind Bravely Default. So great year overall. I think it was a lot better actually than 2017, of course, but it kept getting better since 2019 was even better. Let's look at it. Last year, we got a bunch of games. We've got a lot of ports, so be prepared. And we also got one of my games of the year. So let's start with this one. Dragon Quest XI-S, which is the definitive edition of Dragon Quest XI in my opinion. Awesome game. I put over 80 hours into the game and I could have put more if I wanted to. Graphics are awesome, music is awesome, gameplay is awesome, and the storyline is also very good. I can't recommend the game enough. That was awesome to get on the console. Then, for the ports, we've got a lot of games to go through, so they brought to the table a bunch of Final Fantasy games. They brought Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, which was a remaster. We've got Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X and X-2, and 12 as well, the Zodiac Age, which was also pretty good. Those ports, I know that they sold pretty well onto the console, considering they're old ports of old games, classics though, so that was pretty good for Square, I'm confident. Then they decided to release Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. Those were the ports of the Android and iPhone games, so mobile games, which are definitely not the better ports that we got for those games. People would have preferred like an up-res game of the original NES games, but that's not the case. Still, it's a good way to play those games easily in today's day and age, but I don't think they hold up as good as they used to be in the time, considering they released in the 80s, 90s. But still, I bought them, I played them, pretty good games. They also brought Romancing Saga 3, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, Star Ocean First Departure R, The Last Remnant Remastered, and Oninaki. Overall, pretty good year for Square Enix again. For this year, the lineup is pretty good. Fairly small again this year, but we're talking about 2 new titles. The first one being Bravely Default 2. We don't have a release date for this game yet, but it's the sequel to the original Bravely Default on the 3DS, so don't confuse it with Bravely Second. Awesome game. Played the demo. Think it looks very good. You should try it out as well if you want to. I can't recommend it enough. Then we also recently got, at the time of recording this video, Trials of Manor Remake released today. I've yet to see the reviews. I want to buy the game. It seems very good with what I've seen for the gameplay. I thought it looked very good. I haven't tried the demo yet. I mean, I've been pretty busy in the last few days, so I was not able to get into the demo, but it looks very good, honestly. And then we're also supposed to get, no release date for this one either, but we're supposed to get Final Fantasy Chronicles Remastered as well on the Switch. So the lineup up for this year is pretty good. The games look good. Of course, it's not as big of a year for Square Enix in comparison to last year, but it's still pretty good. We're still missing those heavy hitters such as Dragon Quest XI, in my opinion. I know this Bravely Default is very anticipated. So those were a quick summary of the last 3 years and the support from Square that we got on the Nintendo Switch. Now for the future, that we're getting to the interesting part. With the massive success of the Nintendo Switch and its incredible success in Japan, it's obvious that Square Enix will want to support the console even more in the upcoming years. And yes, I'm considering the release of the PlayStation 5 and also the Xbox Series X, which I don't think will be direct competitors to the Switch, honestly, but that's a topic for another video that I don't want to get into at the moment. For 2020 and beyond, I'm confident that we can expect brand new titles from Square Enix to receive a Switch version, and we can also expect to have some ports of old games. I made a small list actually of games from Square Enix that I think would be a very good fit for the console and that I hope will come to the console, and I want to tell you guys about those games. Just before I get into it, that's my opinion. I'm not a developer. I can't tell you if all those games are possible for the console, but I'm describing why I think those would be great ports to bring to the Switch. So the first few games that I want to talk about are remastered of older games, and after I'm done with those games, I'll get into ports of new games that came out in the last decade, for example. So let's get right into it. First game up my list is Chrono Trigger. The game doesn't need an introduction, it's a masterpiece. The art style by Akira Toriyama doesn't get old, and I'm certain that by bringing the game to the console, you'd expand its audience and its fanbase even more. And maybe use that success to remake the game in the future. That would be a good opportunity. Who knows? And then the next game that I want to talk about, next games actually, older games, those would be ports for Dragon Quest 4, 5, and 6. We recently got 1, 2, and 3. Those were okay ports, as I said previously in the video. But 4, 5, and 6 are great games. The last time that we got those games in the West were on the Nintendo DS, so it's been a while actually. With the increasing popularity of the franchise, I think now's a good time to bring the games on the Switch. Now, for my last 4 picks, as I said before, those games will be more recent games that I think deserve a port and that I think would work well on the Switch. The first games that I want Square to port onto the Nintendo Switch and I think would be a great fit would be Life is Strange 1 and 2, if possible a collection. Those games are awesome. They are extremely interesting and intriguing in the story department. Both games are great looking, but they're not to the level of a game like Doom or Witcher 3, for example, so I doubt that it would be very difficult to make it run properly on the Switch with the right optimization. Those games are adventure games where you decide where the story will be headed, and those games they have multiple endings. They're kind of like Telltale games in a way, so I think they would be a great fit to play portably on your Nintendo Switch. My next pick would be the Kingdom Hearts franchise. So, before you start writing down in the comments that I'm crazy and that those games can come to the console, I want to let you guys know that Kingdom Hearts has been on Nintendo platforms before. We've got games on the 3DS, we've got games on the DS, we've got games on GBA as well, so there's definitely history between Square Kingdom Hearts franchise and also Nintendo. I think it would be a great idea to bring those games to the console. I hope that they would bring the all-in-one package that was recently released on the PlayStation 4. This is the package that it is including every game from the franchise. But honestly, I really do think that Kingdom Hearts franchise is a great fit for Nintendo fans. They've been asking for the game for a long time. I would personally like to have those games as well on the console. They're long games. It would be great to play them portably. And I think the all-in-one package would be a great fit for the console. I don't know how hard it would be to port the games on the console, especially the third one. There's an engine that was made specially for the game, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me in the comment section below if I'm not correct. So I don't know how it would be easy or hard to port the game and optimize it correctly for the Switch, but I think it's worth the effort. So for my last 2 picks, I'm going to start with the trilogy of Tomb Raider games that we got on the PlayStation 4. I'm talking about the reboot of the original game, I'm talking about Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I'm talking about Shadow of the Tomb Raider as well. Those games would be awesome on the console. I'm not demanding the three of them, honestly. The three of them are very good games. I had a preference for the original. My opinion, that was the better game. But those games would be awesome. They look really great. There's not that much movement in the screen since it's an action-adventure game, so I don't think it would be too hard to port on the console, and they're not that long of games either. Again, I'm not a developer, so I have no clue, but I know that those games would be great to play on the go. And last, but definitely not least, before I give my pick, guys, hold on to your seats very well. You might be surprised for this last pick. My last game is the one and only Final Fantasy VII Remake. Before you jump to the comment section and tell me that I'm crazy, please give me a minute or two of your time, guys, and listen to me. I think the game can come to the Nintendo Switch with the right optimization. We've seen developers bring big games such as The Witcher 3 by Saber Interactive on the console. I think a port is feasible. The game is looking really good on the PlayStation 4. I just finished the game. It's really good looking, but if you try to optimize it, obviously lower the frame rate and lower the resolution, I think it's possible to put the game on the console. It's not that long of a game. There's not that many enemies at the same time on the screen. You'll have 4 or 5 enemies at a time normally, not more than that. And my biggest point is that Final Fantasy VII Remake is running on Unreal Engine 4, an engine that is well known by developers to be easy to work with on the Nintendo Switch. There's a few games already on the console that is running on the engines, such as Octopath Traveler, which is also from Square Enix. We've got a Vampire, we've got from Bandai Namco Dragon Ball FighterZ, we got Hellblade, that is also a very beautiful game. And Dragon Quest XI-S. There's also a bunch of upcoming games to the console that will run on the engine. First that comes to mind for me is Outer Worlds, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Jump Force Deluxe Edition, and I'm confident that there's a bunch more that will come as well. As I said before, I'm not a developer, but after playing games like The Witcher 3, Doom, Wolfenstein 2, and other big games coming like Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, Breath of the Wild 2, I think the system for the Switch is capable of much more. I do think that a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake with the right optimization and a good studio behind it is possible. Obviously it would need some downgrade as I said before, but I'm okay with that. Thank you very much guys for your time and for listening to this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I really enjoyed speaking about Square Enix. It's one of my favorite developers. If you have other picks for games that they could bring to the table, I would like to hear about them in the comment sections below. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And if you want more content like this, I'm gonna put videos on my channel every Tuesday talking about subjects like this one. So don't hesitate to click the subscribe button. Until next time guys, bye bye.